Here's an exercise I invite you all to practice after meeting with your partner. So, at the very end of a partner session with your spoken work partner, I invite you to take a minute and both write down two pieces of feedback about the other person's facilitation. Write one thing that worked for you and be very specific about it, and then write one thing that didn't work for you and be very specific. And I really encourage you to write it down. Actually, stop, both of you, take out a piece of paper or write it on your computer and have an actual sentence constructed for each of these pieces of feedback. And just one sentence. This will force you to keep it very simple, very concise, and very clear if possible. You can use prompts like what worked for me was, or what didn't work for me was, or you can use prompts from like the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. I want you to, you shouldn't, or you should, or I need you to, anything like that. And once you've written your statement and you both have had time to do that, then take turns and read exactly what you wrote to your partner. Just one sentence of what worked for you, and then one sentence of what didn't work for you. And um, don't explain, don't elaborate. This is about your experience. You're just sharing your experience, reporting your experience. You're not teaching. This is really important. This is just feedback. This is not instruction. So your partner will either find it or they won't find it, and that's their business. Your business is just to report what you found, and then it either resonates with them or it doesn't. So it's very simple. One sentence you read, and then no more. This sharing should take less than 1 minute each. And when you're done with sharing your feedback, then just say goodbye, thank each other, and hang up. And if you're receiving feedback, which you'll also be in this process, then here are a few things to keep in mind. First of all, remember that this feedback is just the other person's experience. It's not necessarily the gospel truth. They don't have to, just because they say it doesn't mean that it's true, even. So keep that in mind. Also, notice the courage that it takes for the other person to share so openly, and keep that in mind when they're sharing with you. And then see if you can open your heart to find what they're talking about. Just look at what they're pointing to and see if there's any truth there. And then also hold your own experience along with theirs. Just because they say it doesn't mean that it's true. But just because you think it's true doesn't mean that they're wrong either. Like, hold them as equals and consider what could be the real truth here. And then after each sentence, there would be two sentences that the person's saying to you, one about what worked for you, for them, and one what didn't work for them. After each sentence, then see if you can find what they're talking about, and if you can, say thank you. And even if you can't find what they're saying, just say thank you. And it's the same. Thank you, either because thank you, I really got what you're saying, or thank you for sharing so courageously and openly your mind with me. And don't ask for further explanation. You either find it or you don't. And they may even be communicating poorly, but that's not your business. Your business is to thank them for sharing their feedback in whatever form they were able to come up with you. And then as soon as you've both received your feedback, then just say thank you to each other, and then say goodbye and hang up. After you hang up, then the exercise continues. Notice any stressful thoughts about the feedback you received and write them down and do the work on them right then. That's one of the most powerful exercises I found. Then consider the feedback you just received. Is there any way to experiment with incorporating that into your next facilitation? If it was useful, if it sounds useful to you, then why not experiment with it? And you can get specific about what that would look like. And then also look at the feedback that you wrote down to read to the other person during the call. And take each piece of feedback that you had for them and turn it around to the self to the other, to the opposite, and find examples for your turnarounds. This is very powerful because this feedback that you see for them could end up being the most powerful feedback that you could get for yourself. So don't miss out on the wisdom that you had for them. It could become the guiding wisdom for your own facilitation. And then finally, if you feel any charge about a situation that came up during your facilitation, um, feel free to write a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet on your partner and just work it privately. Occasionally you can also work these on the forum as part of the exercise, but make sure you use the forum guidelines of contacting your partner, making sure it's all right with them, and that it fits in with the exercises that we're doing. It's perfectly fine, but just make sure you have permission and follow those guidelines on the forum about how to do the work on each other. Okay, one other thing that's not really related to feedback, but it's similar, and that is what Byron Katie sometimes calls client's rights. And what that means is sometimes during a session, a facilitator will start directing the session maybe away from the work, not really asking the 4 questions or turnarounds. And as a client, you have a right to override that and bring the session back to the work. That's what you came for. You even have a right to say, this isn't working for me, and discontinue. That's also always your right. And sometimes it'll be like the person, you're ready to move to the next question, and they're still kind of holding you in the question you're in. You have a right to ask to move on. So just to mention that so that you're not like at the mercy of a facilitator, it's a two-way thing, and you can express what your needs are as well as allowing the person to guide you through the process. I find that allowing the person to guide you through the process is also a really valuable thing to do. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm going to exercise my client's rights, but actually sometimes if I don't, I just allow myself to go with their flow, it works out just fine as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. You're not a victim of your facilitator. Okay, have fun with facilitation and with feedback of facilitation. And if you have any questions, let me know.